One of the fundamental debates in American government is how to balance individual liberties with the need for public order and safety. The US Constitution, particularly the Bill of Rights, protects individual freedoms, but these rights are not absolute. The government has the authority to place limits on personal freedoms when necessary to maintain public safety, order, and national security. This unit focuses on how the judiciary, legislative, and executive branches navigate this balance. The Bill of Rights and Individual Liberties. The first 10 amendments to the Constitution protect individual freedoms such as speech, religion, assembly, and due process. These rights are not unlimited and can be restricted under certain circumstances to ensure public safety and order. Limits on individual freedoms for public safety. The government can regulate rights when there is a compelling interest, meaning an essential or crucial reason to maintain order, security, or national stability. Courts often use the clear and present danger and compelling state interest tests to determine whether limits are justified. Key Supreme Court cases. Several landmark Supreme Court cases illustrate how the government has balanced individual freedom with public order and safety. Schenck v. United States, 1919. This case established the clear and present danger test. Charles Schenck was convicted for distributing anti-draft leaflets during World War I. The court ruled that speech creating a clear and present danger, like encouraging draft resistance during wartime, could be restricted. This is an example of limiting free speech in the interest of national security. Tinker v. Des Moines, 1969. This case strengthened protection for free speech. Students were suspended for wearing black armbands to protest the Vietnam War. The court ruled that symbolic speech is protected unless it disrupts the learning environment. This is an example of protecting individual freedom when it does not threaten public order. New York Times v. United States, 1971, also known as the Pentagon Papers case. This case addressed government censorship and prior restraint. The Nixon administration attempted to prevent newspapers from publishing classified Vietnam War documents. The court ruled that the government could not censor the press unless it proved an immediate, grave danger to national security. An example of the First Amendment outweighing government claims of public order? Well, it really illustrates the delicate balance between individual freedoms and societal needs. Mapp v. Ohio, decided in 1961, applied the exclusionary rule, which prevents the government from using illegally obtained evidence. In this case, police entered Dolry Mapp's home without a proper warrant and found incriminating materials. The court ruled that evidence obtained in violation of the Fourth Amendment could not be used in court. An example of protecting individual privacy rights despite law enforcement interests, really, shows the ongoing tension between personal freedoms and the needs of public safety. The USA PATRIOT Act of 2001 and the War on Terror marked a significant turning point. In the aftermath of the 9/11 attacks, the government expanded its surveillance powers. This legislation allowed authorities to monitor phone calls, emails, and financial transactions with the aim of preventing terrorism. However, critics argued that it violated Fourth Amendment protections against unreasonable searches and seizures. This is an example of how increasing government authority in the name of national security can come at the cost of personal privacy. Now let's delve into contemporary issues in balancing rights and security. Gun control versus Second Amendment rights. The right to bear arms is protected by the Second Amendment, but is subject to regulations to prevent gun violence. Cases like District of Columbia versus Heller in 2008 affirmed an individual's right to own a firearm, but governments can impose restrictions for public safety. COVID-19 public health orders versus personal freedoms. Government-mandated lockdowns, mask requirements, and vaccine mandates raised questions about balancing public health with individual rights. Courts had to decide whether emergency health measures justified limiting personal freedom. Free speech and social media regulation. Debates over online censorship and misinformation raise new questions about how much the government can regulate speech on private platforms. Platforms banning individuals or content, for example, for spreading hate speech or misinformation, leads to discussions about First Amendment protections. Police power and civil liberties. Law enforcement agencies use tools like stop and frisk, body cameras, and predictive policing to maintain order. Critics argue that some methods, such as racial profiling, violate constitutional rights. Conclusion. The challenge of balancing individual freedoms with public order and safety is a central theme in constitutional law. Courts continuously interpret the Constitution to ensure that government actions are necessary and proportionate. Striking this balance remains an evolving issue, influenced by new technologies, social movements, and national security threats.